Like the man who obliterated the boy once said, "We got the same 24, what you mad for?" Allotting our limited 24 hours can be crucial for us gamers looking for the next best thing to play while escaping the vitriol-induced tendencies of our favorite hobby. One of gaming's finest genres that do take a lot of those said hours is the role-playing game, where historically, it is the type of game where you want to bring the best mix of gaming excellence into one single purchase. Surprisingly, it is also the type of video game where a lot of us just straight up consume massive copium tanks in serving the never-ending bickering online. Whether it is you trying to defend the game you thought was amazing, or you're the equivalent of a cave troll who managed to learn how to use Twitter. Role-playing games bring out the best and worst of us when we're trying to sit back and reflect on games we play. And it just so happens that 3 games were released within a time frame that I'd consider the next gen proper. Dragon Age the Veilguard, Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, and Avowed. This is a video where I'll be trying to focus on displaying what makes the state of Western RPG so polarizing, with 3 prime examples and how these games dictate the momentum of its gaming peers and culture in the year of our Lord 2025. These aren't necessarily in-depth analyses of the said titles, but a highlight of how they will belong in the modern landscape going forward. Let's start with a banger, and this one is what I believe to be the gold standard of RPGs moving forward. You don't always see underdogs eradicate that title while at the same time retain their roots from their humble introduction all the way to their resounding success. Warhorse Studios already caught my eye by introducing Kingdom Come Deliverance to the world as someone who favors anything that involves swords and the biggest iron armor imaginable. But this time, there's no magic or prophecies like being the next Dragon Ball. But instead, you've been sold off the idea that you're basically a peasant who was caught in the wrong place but came out surviving at the right time. My time with Henry back in 2018 was one for the books, and all these years later, leaving us with only that cliffhanger of an ending, came around to greet us with the potential delivering of a quality game that is more of a statement than a product offering. Well, I say, statement made.
Simply lovely.
Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 is close to perfection as we can get for a game that was released in the lull months of gaming. And I think what they achieved here not only provided a much needed sequel for their debut game, but they overachieved in actually making this niche medieval knight simulator taste mainstream success due to its regard of the consumer's hard-earned money by bringing quality craftsmanship for a game of its nature. We can talk about how the game is obviously a worthy $70 investment, with it being essentially a virtual tour of what it's like in medieval Bohemia, but is obviously a rhapsody of good gaming all around, where its peers tend to slip and slide like my boy Nagakado. What I notice about success stories like KCD2 is that without any controversy attached to it, we tend to forget about a game to the point we're taking it out of conversations after it's all said and done, even though we're so involved in an industry that normalizes controversy. From writing the script up to the game being available for everyone, we saw that it was moved away from the radars of everyone in favor of much established franchises that bear a burden of bad faith, making a mark on this otherwise competitive year for a Game of the Year contenders. What's much worthy? To be known as a video game with the most earnest of praises, with nothing else of relevance to be spoken of in the long run, or to prove to the world that they still have what it takes to bring the weight of its franchise's legacy upward and provide a solid RPG experience that their studio was well known for its entire existence? That's only a dream for the current iteration of BioWare, presented with their latest project.
I have awaited this moment.
Meanwhile,
Well, aside from the fact that she's a complete and utter bitch, no, I don't like her at all.
Dragon Age is actually a franchise that holds a ton of pedigree, regardless of how you think of its sequels. I beg to argue that somehow 2 and Inquisition aged as gracefully as it can, within a medium that constantly fights for the grandiose standard a big marquee game can get. I'll always have high praises for Origins as much as the next guy, since I'm used to RPGs that have what my age group described as skibbity game systems that they will most likely not enjoy. Veilguard actually addressed this, and it could be the best combat the series have ever seen. But at what cost? Everything. Even the name Dragon Age soured for its scandalous attempt to bring a new vision to light that definitely not a lot of people agreed on. Some justified, and some just downright hateful, I might say. I personally am fond of the narratives each Dragon Age provided throughout the years. To the happenings in Kirkwall post-Ferelden, to the Inquisition coming in and then being gone. And somehow, with all the infamous things the current BioWare did for the Veilguard, no one is batting an eye on how much everything they set out to tell for us fans compromised the great lore this series had. For the sake of not spoiling you, that's the route this game took that didn't benefit anyone, whether they believe it or not. Owning the attention of the grifters and shills with their personal agendas has been a trend in gaming, where its communities become volatile due to how the culture has shifted. And I don't mean that to be exclusively detrimental. It's about time we speak up, represent, and actually fight against hate. But it's also the job of the industry that relies on the mainstream to actually prove to everyone that their game is worth it, especially for those who have the rights to big name franchises like Dragon Age. With everything that the Veilguard decided to exist for, it's controversy on top of being a role-playing game. And that's unfortunate. Common buzzwords behold, but common sense nonetheless, that if you enjoy a game for what it is, go ahead and stick to your lane and community. But addressing how one game ruined an entire decade worth of content that its past purveyors have crafted with grace is another. Gaming nowadays sparks conversations. It is, after all, one of the best forms of media out there. Passionate sides tend to spill through wild Twitter threads and Reddit posts. But I believe these are a product of tribalism. And what better RPG that was released recently encompasses this well. The prospect of Pillars of Eternity having a real-time game is a big one for me, who have enjoyed our previous adventures in Eora. Avowed is actually a game that I enjoyed playing from start to finish. It captured a sense of wonder that I didn't really necessarily feel for other fantasy RPGs as of late, since the factor of it being a derivative of a game in a different genre gave plus allure points personally. I streamed this game in separate sessions on Twitch, so you may give me a follow there if you want, but that's beside the point. This game is the brainchild of Obsidian Entertainment, where it unfortunately had the burden of Fallout New Vegas' hallmark status in gaming. This is what happens when people expect a studio to sweatshop classic after classic, since, after all, they were the ones who made the standard RPG for the longest time. You see this comment a lot, and it's from fans and grifters alike. But it's the truth. They are not the same Obsidian that made the classic Fallout game. And for those who bat an eye at Avowed's case, it's another example of its curse in full effect. No matter how you make a game, we will have varying opinions, and that's to be expected. I actually don't think this game is worth $70 after having fun with it. But why do individuals have to take that to heart, where it's being represented as an attack to their loyalty in a dead proxy war that's the console war? I accept people being against my thoughts and opinions, but It's hard to take them seriously if you see that they have biases against its supposed opposition. In this case, the well-crafted games at Sony. I am standing on business to say that Avowed is the most important game right now. Not because of the game itself, but the perception it brings. You may not feel it now, but it will be the litmus test to where things will go long term with all the narrative it brings. From it being a mid-game from the remains of a legendary studio to being a property of Xbox, a failing company. And the fact that it is the most justified polarizing game that warrants honest and truthful opinions about it is what will drive the industry and its communities forward. It's true, you can't please everybody. But what usually happens is that, due to how the internet works, it's so easy to voice everything out, whether it is biased positives and unjust negatives. Gaming is a medium that is a testament to where outcries dictate the momentum of a game's success and infamy. What these three games possess in our year of 2025 are the status of both pendulums, and most of the time, they are not equal. These days, it's not enough to be a masterpiece. You need to transcend untouchable ceilings that people have built that's ever so raising with each breaking of the said barrier. And you'll find video games, not just RPGs, will follow suit to what generates more word of mouth to an audience that's so dedicated to the games they're rooting for. I'll catch you on the next one.